Welcome, everybody, to Blobby's Pit, Episode 4, Johnny Depp. All about Johnny Depp today. And we have a guest here who's kind of, I think, uniquely suited to this particular discussion, Jenna Kuerzi. For intro, let's share names, pronouns for those listening, and what is the physical feature of Johnny Depp that you are most drawn to?
Great.
I could go. I'm Blobby. He, him pronouns, and the physical. I came up with this prompt, and I was kind of thinking about it a little bit. So I kind of had an edge on you. I'm thinking the hair of Johnny Depp draws me in.
Very distinct. Yeah.
It's distinct and ever changing. But I think it must be the hair because I'm so drawn to films where he has cool hair, like Pirates of the Caribbean, or even like Secret Window. But
Sweeney Todd.
yes, hair in Sweeney Todd is so good. But the movies like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or God forbid, Dark Shadows, they just fill me with disgust, and it's the hair. I think it's definitely the hair.
That's delightful, and very telling. My, I guess so. I'm Jenna Kuerzi. She all, and I guess the thing that I'm most drawn to about Johnny Depp is the bracelets. The plethora of bracelets that are adorning his wrists.
Yeah, the bling. Yeah.
The bling. And it's more and more as he gets older. And we have a joke about it in our show that, like, if he keeps putting on bracelets, then he'll never get old. It's the same. Peter Pan stories will never get old if we just keep telling them.
Yeah, something that comes up on your podcast is that Johnny Depp is becoming like an old lesbian. That's your...
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
The bracelets might have something to do with that. I think you might have been explaining this while I was in the restroom, but do you want to offer a few words to chat about the she/all pronouns? Because someone in chat had a question about it.
Yeah, so we kind of discussed it, but it's just I'm not very personally precious about pronouns, and I just don't ever feel specifically defined by anything, so it's just all in flux and interchanging, and I don't really care what's used when discussing me.
Yeah, it's
preference, not a thing that everybody's cool with, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. A preference of no preference, I guess, in a way, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
In a different way than like a they/them pronoun preference is like very distinct in being not one or the other. So.
Yeah, for sure, because I think that in my experience, when people say all pronouns, folks tend to continue to refer to them as what they thought before. And that just doesn't work for a lot of people, because it feels like not in the spirit of all pronouns, I guess.
Yeah.
Interesting conversation. But... not one about Johnny Depp that I know of. Who knows what his pronouns are?
I don't really know, actually. It's probably in flux. It's questionable.
Yeah, like there's this thing about Hollywood where they seem like they're both like conservative rich people, but also I think very sexually explorative in ways that they don't let on into the public. So it's like, I don't even think you could really call them, most of them, straight or anything like that.
No. Hollywood's like the gayest place on earth, and that's like kind of what makes it untouchable, right? Where you're like, oh my god, it's so magical.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good point. I would like to start in this Johnny Depp conversation with each of us sharing the history of our relationship with Johnny Depp.
Absolutely.
Kind of a brief gloss. And I'll go first because I think that your answer might lead to other conversations. But basically, Johnny Depp was my first ever favorite actor when I was coming into being a fan of movies actively rather than just like something that happens to me periodically. Um, my first favorite director was M. Night Shyamalan, and my first favorite actor was Johnny Depp. I thought,
Amazing.
yeah, I thought he was incredible. Like Pirates of the Caribbean is probably the reason why he was my favorite. But I remember seeking out a bunch of his other movies specifically, which I'd never done with an actor before. And around the same time, I developed a disdain for Nicolas Cage as a performer, and I would always feel like Johnny Depp is the pinnacle for me, and Nicolas Cage is the absolute nadir. This is the bottom of the barrel. But in the decade plus since then, my orientation to those two actors has totally flip-flopped to the point
So funny.
that now I think Nicolas Cage is a phenomenal actor. Not
He's great.
not all the time, but if he gets a good
He's always
director,
going for it though. Yeah, like never say that guy's phoning it in because he's not.
well, he sometimes does phone it in, and it leads to really dull performances, like in the Left Behind movie. But but a boring bad Nicolas Cage performance is very different than a crazy bad one. And
Have you seen Mom and Dad?
Mom and Dad, no.
Oh, it's so good. He plays a dad, but go figure. But the entire movie is that there's like this virus that's infecting parents and it makes them want to murder their children. And he like dances around with a pool cue being the hokey pokey at one point, and it's really good.
There's a movie where he's a dad and he like has to go into a spirit realm to get his son back or something.
Oh, this isn't Mom and Dad.
No.
I know what you're about. What is that movie?
Yeah, I have only the fleetingest of memories of it.
Inconceivable? No.
It's something like that. But yeah, I thought Nicolas Cage was awful, and I've come totally around to realizing that it actually takes a lot of vulnerability to put out batshit performances like that. And a lot of the time, Johnny Depp, who has shrunk in my estimation since then, is going for something very surface level in a way that doesn't impress me very much anymore. But he has plenty of moments still. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's very I mean, we talked about Transcendence on my podcast and like that movie very much is a bad that's a bad Johnny Depp movie. But in the year sandwiching that movie, there are some glimmers of hope and life and yeah.
There's yeah, you look at the recent years of his career and it's very sad, but there's always Rango. Yeah.
There is always Rango. If you're ever feeling sad about anything, there is always Rango.
So I'll turn it over to you now for the history of your relationship with this fellow. I know it's long and
Yeah,
tumultuous.
very long, very tumultuous. So mine also started with Pirates of the Caribbean, I guess. I was familiar with Elm Street. I like knew who he was, and I loved Edward Scissorhands, and I loved Ed Wood when I was in middle school. And then Pirates of the Caribbean came out, I think in 2001. So it hit me like right at the time where like that was all I wanted to do was be a pirate.
Uh-huh.
And and that was the only option. And so my friends and I, kind of very similar to what I'm going through now, we wanted to go through his entire filmography up until that point. Because I was also obsessed with Elijah Wood because the Lord of the Rings movies had just come out, so I was big into franchises, essentially. And Depp was just like this wily character that I saw a lot of myself in Jack Sparrow, and so I felt like I needed to either become him or just consume as much about him as I possibly could. Very, like teenager going through fangirl stage, I suppose. But it was less like it wasn't like I was sexualizing him. It's like I wanted to be him.
Uh-huh.
which
Yeah,
is
you came down squarely on that side of the do I want to be him or be inside of him?
yeah, we felt like very fuck me, be me. And my co-writer for Johnny Depp, a retrospective on late stage capitalism, she had the same thing with Winona Ryder. It's very fuck me, be me, you know? um, so yeah, I guess it started there, and then we would like cosplays as Pirates of the Caribbean characters. Me and two of my friends, we'd write each other letters like in character. We'd write fan fictions and stuff, and then I kind of lost touch with that side of my life a little bit, but I always took parts of Johnny Depp's performances and would like use them for my own. And from that, his movies started to get worse. Secret Window, I still love. I saw that in theaters. Corpse Bride, I saw that in theaters and was like, on it. Um, and then he kind of fell off the wagon, so to speak, which is probably a terrible thing to say about him because he actually did fall off the wagon
Right. Yeah.
recently. But like for me, I stopped like following his career super hardcore until 2 years ago when Val Dunn and myself were trying to think of projects that we could work on together. We wanted to make something, she wanted to write something for me, and I wanted to perform something with her. We both found out that we had dressed up as Jack Sparrow for Halloween pretty much the same year. Like she's a few years younger than me, but like pretty much the same year. So we like dug up these pictures of Jack Sparrow and we're like, holy shit, we know so much about Johnny Depp. Let's write a play about him and I'll be Johnny Depp. Um, and then we've traveled the world with this show. We went to Edinburgh last year or 2 years ago now, Jesus Christ, for the Fringe. We did a show at Fergie's Pub, which is a place in Philadelphia that's really awesome. And we were about to do a monthly show. So Johnny Depp was going to be a monthly show at Fergie's, and then the world shut down. So when the world shut down, I decided to pivot and make a podcast because I was still watching all of his movies for Johnny Depp, a retrospective on late stage capitalism. So I just funneled all of that into Depp Impact and have been inviting fun friends like you along for the ride.
Yeah, and you're almost done.
Yeah.
Let's talk like a little bit about the play before we get to the podcast. I have here. As I've been sharing with chat, this is my first day back streaming after a move and a hiatus. While I was moving, I uncovered this notebook, which is actually signed by Johnny Depp. My camera's reversed, but Johnny Depp himself signed. I have a signed notebook.
Yeah, that is a signed notebook by three-time Academy Award nominee Johnny Depp, as played by me.
Yeah, this was signed by Jenna in character. So I got to see Jenna's play before everything got shut down, and it's more or less a one-person show with a little bit of input from another actor who is also your co-collaborator. But the project, which you should talk about however you feel, it was basically talk about all of Johnny Depp's career as part of this like kind of stunt monologue with you dressed as Jack Sparrow.
Yeah. We go through, so like the log line, I guess, the tagline of the show, I don't even know, is join Johnny Depp as he looks back at his illustrious film, television, and video game voiceover appearances. And join him as he retrospects upon all of them and has fun little anecdotes. But you can also, we give you a goodie bag when you enter the space, and in the goodie bag are plastic gold coins and the finest piece of BJ's bulk chocolat, and I forget what else is even in there. A Winona Forever sticker of his tattoo, a candle because we all light candles and say our favorite Johnny Depp movie together. And then every time you've seen a Johnny Depp movie in the show, as we're going through them chronologically from Nightmare on Elm Street to I believe at the time the third Fantastic Beast movie was coming out, and he still hadn't been fired from it, so that was in the mix. But every time you've seen one of his movies, you throw a gold coin at me and try to hit me.
Yeah, he was a Nightmare on Elm Street, CJ. He was a little baby boy back then.
Yeah, wearing a crop top, and yeah, he's wearing a crop top. He gets eaten, he gets sucked into the bed, and all of his blood goes flying onto the ceiling.
Yeah, I mean everyone.
Yeah,
He plays. Avocado says he plays a very
amazing.
convincing geyser of blood. Everyone's got to start somewhere, and we forget because he's the weirdo. We forget that Johnny Depp started, like many other handsome young boys, as the heartthrob, and was trying to make that work for a while, right?
Yeah. Well, him and Nick Cage were like BFFs, and he went with Nicolas Cage to a bunch of um a bunch of auditions, and Nick Cage was just like, "Ah, you should book this," and he's like, "Yeah, that's not how show business works, but sure, thanks, Mr. Coppola."
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Cage is actually a Coppola. Changed his name because he wanted to make it on the back of his own talents.
Right? Yeah. Listen, I'll change my name to Coppola if it means some sort of contract. That's fine. It's odd in a second.
It's like, yeah, that's deceptive nepotism.
Yeah, exactly.
Try to trick people into assuming that you're related to somebody.
Yeah, why not? Kuerzi, like, what is that last name?
I don't know.
The same. But yeah, so the sort of the thesis statement of Johnny Depp, a retrospective on late stage capitalism, is how can this guy who, like, clearly Blobby, like you and I have a connection with, how did this guy who, like, a lot of us really loved and shaped a lot of our interests, how did he become just like a piece of shit? And how does his filmography kind of reflect his decline into what is late stage capitalism?
It's like grappling with celebrity in an interesting way because we celebrity has become a way for us to relate to each other by like fetishizing this other thing, and we almost treat them like people we know, but they're so far beyond us. And because of the kind of pressure cooker context of their lives, so many of them, have drug addictions or self-destructive patterns. And how do you square the circle of the like learning about the really messed up inner world or even outer worlds of these people who you admired for their art, for their creative work?
Yeah. And like kind of coming to terms that like they're also people, which is complicated and messy because we all are. So like how do we take somebody who we put on a pedestal for so long because we love the work they do and recognize that they're human and they make mistakes without like defending the choices that they've made and simply just stating this is what they've done, and you can kind of make your own assumptions from there.
Yeah, I think that always remembering that humanity is fucked up, and like I think that's so important in these culture war conversations we keep getting sucked into. And I love that something you mention a lot on your podcast is that partway through the subject of this podcast got canceled, but we're still here. We're still doing this investigation,
Yeah.
and it's still worthwhile, even though the subject has been canceled.
Yeah. And I feel super strongly about that, because I've had people like drop out of being a guest, and I totally respect that. Like I've had them booked, and they just like don't want to talk about him because they don't want him to take up mental space for them.
Oh shit! Wow, interesting.
Yeah, really weird. And like I think for the and a lot of this comes down to like the person that I am, is that I'm always like I'm very hard to offend, and I'm also always willing to listen to like anybody. So Even if it's something I don't agree with, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll hear you out. I'll at least listen to it. But for people to like cancel on me and be like, I just don't have the space for this, I'm like, well, that's probably why we need to talk about it then, because I don't know. It's super complicated. I do talk about it a lot on my podcast, and I think they think that I'm defending him and his actions, and that's simply not true.
Yeah, I mean, we can't defend or attack anything unless we come to a greater understanding of it anyway, and that only
Yeah,
happens through discourse. So it drives me up a wall as well, the way that so much of our political discourse right now is about shutting down further discourse. I hate that.
right. Like, what are we learning? We're not learning shit. Like, I don't.
No, we're doing the see no evil thing, and then the canceled person just creeps up behind us and keeps doing the work that they were doing the whole time anyway.
Exactly. And then we get 4 years of like garbage and then 4 more years of garbage. Like it's just it never ends. One's blue, one's red, like I don't it's all the same shit.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. uh,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and it's
Exactly.
so disingenuous too, because like all of the billion think pieces, and we should not talk about this for a long time, but all the billion think pieces about um like Trump and women, but none of them about Biden and women. They're like
Right.
totally suppressed, and yeah. But
Yeah.
anyway,
But similarly, I mean, bringing it back to Johnny Depp, I mean, there's hundreds of think pieces about Johnny Depp being abusive and an alcoholic. And there's like five. And Amber Heard is also not a perfect human being. And I've, for research purposes, gone through all of those court proceedings and all of those cases. And like, neither of them come out smelling like roses. And
yeah.
it's unfortunate because they're both two people that need help. And being in the public eye just makes it worse. um, and when you have multi-million trillion dollar franchises on your shoulders, like that also makes it worse.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this cancel discourse is like kind of putting us in a lock of like punitive justice rather than restorative justice, because we have a direct context for this person that is like poisoning his life, and then we have a broader context that is saying we don't need to care about him or help him at all. We just need to punish him and loathe him so that we could feel better about ourselves.
Right. Yeah. And it was funny, like as we were going through the show, all this shit was happening, and I was like, damn, this is so perfect. So like now when we come back to it, when the world reopens, it's gonna be the redemption tour because he slept through the apology tour. So we're just gonna refocus a little bit. But all this stuff was happening, and we were like, do we continue? Like, can we continue making jokes about this celebrity? And we're like, fuck yeah, look what like why not? And
Yeah,
so to like a deeper kernel of truth, which wasn't necessarily there when we set out to do the piece.
yeah, right. It's become more difficult, I imagine, but in that difficulty, you're generating some really interesting, um, like conversation in the cracks of what we usually get to see.
Yeah.
We got a question. I'd be interested in what is meant by late stage capitalism. Is it like end of current Western culture or more dystopian?
It's definitely rooted in reality, at least for us, because it's like, right, late stage capitalism is like hypocrisy and absurdity. And like, we found one definition that was just it's capitalism digging its own grave. And the idea that like we continue to throw money at somebody, regardless of whether they need it or not, is like kind of where, and like, like somebody's brand becoming who they are and how we just like are like, yes, you're the bad boy, take all my money. It's that sort of late stage capitalism. We don't really explore the dystopian future of it. so much because the show's only 45 minutes to an hour long.
But like I mean, you do explore it, I think, because I think we're in the midst of the dystopian future. Uh, like late
Well,
stage
yeah.
capitalism is it's just a term
Wow.
that gets thrown around for like there was like early capitalism, there was like mercantilism, and then there was the industrial revolution for like capitalism prime, and now we're getting to the point in capitalism where the seams are showing it's become increasingly absurd, and we think that it will either break soon or break us soon. That's why we call it late stage.
Yeah.
And Johnny Depp is a perfect figure to explore that because he's the embodiment of extreme extravagance.
Yeah, like you don't need like six storage containers filled with antique guitars or like $30,000 a month spent on wine or a yacht that you sold to J.K. Rowling. Like it's just it's
Or
so weird.
or to shoot your dead friend's ashes into space
Out of a cannon,
out of a
yeah.
cannon.
That was shaped like the Gonzo fist and also a penis. Yeah, it's a whole, and that was a $3 million affair. It's a whole thing.
And I think that one of the symptoms of late stage capitalism is celebrity, the idea of celebrity, and how we relate to celebrities writ large. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. See,
Uh,
I just make the jokes and do the thing, and then other people put very lovely meanings on top of them.
oh yeah, that's what it's all about. Putting something out there and see the fun stuff that people do with it.
Yeah, like we would get like these reviews back, and I'd be like, "Oh, sure, yeah, that's what I was saying." I was trying to remember my lines, but you're right. That pause was really pregnant and really meant a lot.
Yeah, sometimes people see things that we didn't remotely put in there. Sometimes people
Yeah.
see things that we put in but didn't realize it.
Yeah, exactly.
um, so much of art is unconscious, and
Hmm.
I think that like okay, so let's transition into talking about the podcast a little bit. So you say when the world shut down, you realize, oh, I can't do this theater project I've been working on anymore. How
Hmm.
could I pivot? And you ended up landing on this podcast idea where every episode you watch a Johnny Depp film and invite a guest or guests to talk about that film in whatever way they see fit. And
Yeah.
so, as quarantine drove you to adapt and adopt this new version of the project, in what ways did you? How do I frame this question? How has the podcast project been what you expected, and how has delving in this different way offered surprises for you, I guess?
Sure. It's been kind of, I mean, because I've been reaching out to like all different like friend groups and people that like maybe don't always have podcast opportunities or like opportunities to talk about pop culture because they're stuck talking about so many other things all the time that it's been kind of interesting to see where we all meet on like this one particular celebrity and
Mm-hmm.
also in like pitching the podcast to them what movies people choose, uh, which is also really interesting, and seeing if our tastes align, which often somebody will pick a movie and be like, I hate this movie. And I'm like, great, I do too. And I just want to like dunk on it. But sometimes they'll be like, I love this movie. And I'm like, that's interesting. Let's hear why. Um, what are the merits of this film for you? Um, like one of the surprises, I guess, have been that like in asking a lot of my friends that I haven't necessarily spoken about movies or pop culture or this fucking guy about like how he's impacted their lives too in ways that are totally different than the way that it's impacted mine, and like he has no fucking clue, and he'd probably sue me if he knew I was doing this, but like it's just it's interesting to hear where people stand on film and film from a very specific actor, whether he appears in it a lot or not. um, Yeah, that's been interesting. I also love hearing why people pick certain things. I think it's so fascinating. like what is your taste level and where did it come from? Like why is Secret Window the movie that you chose because you love it so much when you haven't seen it since you were like 12?
Yeah, that is like a really cool. I mean, that's a part of the whole dominance of celebrity in our cultural moment is like everybody has to have a relationship with Johnny Depp because of the massive impact that he made on our culture when we were, or at least when we were growing up.
Yeah, like that, and well, like the massive impact that he had on us, plus or minus like 10 years, I'd say. Even like some of my guests are like much older than me or much younger, and it's even there. It's like he's been here. He's done 91 films since 1984. That's that's so much. Or like, my friend Camille, she did all of 21 Jump Street. She watched the entire series just for the podcast. I was like,
Oh,
this is beautiful. And so we
yeah.
just got 21 Jump Street. Uh, and then in talking to other people too, they'd be like, yeah, I love 21 Jump Street. I'm like, I didn't even see it until this podcast. So yeah, it's very strange. Very strange.
I love the way that the universality of this podcast effort, and by that I mean I will watch every single one of these movies. I love the way that it kind of frees you from adherence to like notions of taste or propriety even, and you could discuss like all the aspects and textures of all these things that might normally get canceled or might normally get ignored because they're not worth talking about typically. Your universal project forces you into a deeper relationship with all this sometimes reprehensible shit, sometimes surprisingly rich shit. And I think that's a really cool aspect of having to do every single one, you know?
Right, like even the bad ones. Like I have a guest coming up who like they're two of my friends from high school that are now musicians in Milwaukee, and they're gonna watch every single one of his music videos. Like
Music
do
videos.
an episode on all of the music videos. So Tom Petty and Lemonheads and all those stupid Dior Sauvage like perfume commercials. And then Amy Bailey, who's another actor in town, she did every single one of his like random television episodes. There was like 10 of them, and we did like a 10-minute segment on each of them. So it has been interesting.
Wait, so what video game voiceover has he done?
I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, okay.
I forget what else.
That makes sense.
Mostly a throwaway joke. But
Uh-huh. The the What's Eating Gilbert Grape video game adaptation.
yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think of like the worst one.
Yeah.
Don Juan DeMarco, but it's like The Sims.
The Imaginarium, the Johnny Depp track.
Yeah, it's just that one asses.
um Yeah, so you mentioned how being exposed to all these different people's relationship to Depp has been interesting to you. There was a moment in your Secret Window episode, and I don't know if you were actually joking or not, but you said after you watched it with your partner, you said, I sold my DVD of it immediately. Is that true?
That is true.
So, but this
So,
is a movie that you said that you loved, and then you had this new
yeah.
experience that showed it in a different light, and you immediately sold your DVD. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so we watched it on DVD because I had it. And I was keeping all of my Johnny Depp DVDs, even though I was getting rid of stuff because I'm like, I can't, I go through periods of like, I need to get rid of everything I own. Like, I watched Nomadland recently and whatever about that movie, but like, it just made me want to sell everything I own.
Hmm.
Um, and I was having one of these like fits, I guess you would say. And he had never seen Secret Window. So I was like, we gotta watch Secret Window. We watched it and I said, great, I'm never watching this ever again on DVD. It's available for streaming somewhere. I'm going to sell this because I don't need it anymore.
Or did you get like 13 cents for it or something?
I believe I got 22 cents. I sold that along with From Hell, which was another one I was hanging on to. Uh, yeah, I forget what else, but it was a bunch of them.
So something that I get a little bit self-conscious about, because I watch a lot of movies, I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about movies, and I can sometimes speak strongly about them. I feel bad whenever other people feel bad because I'm speaking strongly in a way that doesn't align with them. And I would be like crestfallen if I shit on someone's beloved movie and then they turned around and like sold the DVD. So it like, were there ways in which you felt like thrilled and like improved by having your previous point of view challenged, or were there ways in which you felt kind of like, well, I like it, you know? I still like it.
Yeah, I mean, I am so, like I said, I'm like always willing to listen and I'm really hard to offend. And like, I also love trash. Like, I love trash and I love tacky things and I love dumb things. So, like,
Same.
I love, yeah, I mean, I think this is where we meet on a lot of things. You picked Transcendent, which is just so tacky. But I don't know. I do find thrill when people challenge me in things. I think that's delightful because I will just hear you out and either agree or disagree, and that's really lovely for me. Um, but also the worse it is, the more I love it. So I don't, but I can't have that physical piece of media in my home anymore. You know what I mean? It's like taking up too much space.
So the judgment of your partner transformed into an opportunity for liberation from this, this
Yes,
physical
because he
object.
hated it. Yeah, and he's like a movie guy, and he loves movies, and he loves Stephen King, and it's a Stephen King adaptation.
Hmm.
And he also loves bad stuff. Like it's very hard to find something that he doesn't like. I don't know if he hated it, but he was like, "That was really dumb." I said, "Yeah, you're right. I'll find it on Tubi."
On Tubi. Okay. So that's the podcast in a nutshell. It's really great. You should check it out. I have something of an event for us for the middle of this show here.
Oh,
Something of a game, perhaps.
okay.
So let me grab some implements here. Um, I have put together a challenge for you, Jenna.
Oh, okay. Uh-oh.
We like to say on Blobby's Pit that we plumb the depths, but now we're going to plumb the depths, okay?
Amazing. Yeah.
So what I have here are 10 quotes that were said by you, Jenna, over the course of your entire podcast. And we're going to go through one at a time, and I'm going to have you guess which episode, which movie the discussion is from.
Okay.
Does that sound all right to you?
That sounds great. I truly don't remember anything that comes out of my mouth after I say it. So
I know. So
I always call it today's truth. Like it's like this is today's truth.
and I wasn't sure whether this would actually be hard for you or easy. I actually have no idea. I tried not to pick especially opaque ones.
Sure.
Around how many do you think that you'll get out of 10?
Maybe like 4, because it's possible that some of them are like things I've written down.
4 out of 10?
Maybe 6. Let's go with 6. I'm gonna be optimistic.
All
Let's
right.
say 6.
How about this? If you get half of these right, we'll do a little wager. If you get half of these right, I will send $10 to this Venmo information right down here.
Okay.
If you get less than half of them right, I will play a YouTube video featuring Johnny Depp that will be very unpleasant for you. Does that sound like a deal?
Sounds excellent.
All right.
Yeah. The Dior Sauvage commercial. That's all I'm saying.
So if you could get 5 of these 10 quotes, that's what we're shooting for. I believe in you.
Yeah, I do too. I'm gonna
channel points? What about channel points? You want to do a bet, CJ? We could do a bet in the channel. All right, let me set up a wager real quick, a prediction. Will Jenna get, how do I phrase this? Will Jenna get half these quotes right? Yes or no?
Oh dear.
All right. You could bet, chat, if you want to wager your channel points. That's something we do on Twitch sometimes. You get channel points on Twitch just by watching a stream, and then you can like use them for things that the streamer offers as rewards.
I have 210 of them, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah, you can click on the little below the chat bar, a little channel points thing to see what you can redeem on my channel.
Oh, that's cool.
You got 2 minutes, chat, to make a. Wait, did I not do it? What the heck?
Oh my gosh, Simon's so cute.
Yeah, Simon's very cute. It's good.
It's good.
Did I do the thing? Oh, I did. I did it successfully. Okay, I see. Anyone want any takers? CJ's got 500 points on no.
Oh no.
CJ's my brother, by the way. Tamakata's saying yes.
CJ.
You got 1 believer.
Hmm.
All right, cool. So while they resolve that, I think we can jump into it.
Great.
Oh, and by the way, for a correct answer, you get this sound effect. And for an incorrect answer, you get this sound effect. We have a deal?
Sounds great. It's funny because you went to play the slide whistle, and my cat immediately went, ah, from outside my door. So,
hey, Angry.
You're never going to remember anything. Hello, Angry.
Got Angry B in the chat. You're just in time for our game. If Jenna gets half of these right, she wins. If she doesn't, I win. So if you just tuned in, these are quotes that Jenna has said over the course of her podcast, and they have to guess what episode it's from. Okay.
Okay.
Show cat. What cat? Oh, I think they're talking to you.
Oh. Yeah, she's outside the door, maybe.
All right. Let's see what happens. Okay, quote number 1. I love how they're like, she's struggling so hard. She also has servants. She still lives in a big-ass house and she's got fancy clothes.
Oh, no. Okay, she's got servants, she lives in a big-ass house, and she's got fancy clothes. This could be Pirates of the Caribbean. This could be...
Yeah, it's gonna be a movie in which some people think a fancy lady is struggling, but
right.
You find that disingenuous.
Because she's got fancy clothes.
And a big-ass house. And servants.
House. It's gotta be Finding Neverland. Final answer.
One out of 1. Very nice. Finding Neverland is correct. From the Finding Neverland episode with Steve Grande,
yeah. He's a delightful comedian in Chicago. Really amazing.
Very nice. That was a tricky one. I'm glad you got it. It's setting off on the right foot.
That was a tricky one. So for that episode, we did like a companion piece on his episode called This Film Is Not Yet Created.
Yeah, you wrote a sequel, right?
Yeah, I had to write a sequel. And so I wrote a sequel from the point of view of the bench that Freddie Highmore and Johnny Depp hug on at the end of the movie.
Oh.
It's very existential. go listen to This Film Has Not Yet Been Created and hear them act out my bench story.
This is so stupid.
It's really good.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
Quote number 2. Now we're only going to talk about the problematic aspects of reptile erasure.
Rango? Final answer, Rango.
Correct. 2 for 2. Yeah, that one I think was a bit of a softball for you.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, Rango is I really enjoyed that podcast and how it recognizes Rango as the kind of buried gem of a hit that it is.
Movie. It's so good.
All right, so 2 for 2. Moving on. Maybe I should have made the wager harder. Dang. All right, quote number 3. I just didn't understand. I was puzzled. I was confused. I was not turned on.
Oh, no. Okay, this could be many things. This could be The Astronaut's Wife. This could be Dark Shadows. This could be Don Juan DeMarco. This could be, I'm gonna go with Dark Shadows.
Dark Shadows is correct.
Oh, thank God.
This was the Dark Shadows episode with Ange Bay, otherwise known as Angry Bee in the chat. Dank Shadows.
Dark Shadows.
That was a delightful episode too. They just shit on Dark Shadows the whole time. It was great. So check out the Dark Shadow episode if you want to hear Jenna and Angry talk about that.
It sucks. It's such a bad movie. But the podcast episode is chef's kiss.
Yes, I think so too. 3 for 3. Moving on to number 4. It's time for me to become super sexy Regis. Suddenly, Regis is wearing leather spandex that is way too tight. His left nut is hanging out of the costume because of the fit, and his white curly chest hair is breaking out of the sides of his outfit. He runs away shouting, "Justice will be delivered!" And then we cut to Martha Stewart's kitchen.
Okay, without a doubt, this is Pirates of the Caribbean. Jenna talks to a wall, because this is from a fan fiction that I didn't write, but somebody in my life wrote. Because I found the piece of paper that I've been hanging on to for the better part of a decade, and that's from the fan fiction "Steamy Caribbean Summer."
That is correct.
Yay!
It is from the very first episode, and the only episode, I believe, where you're by yourself. And I'm very glad that you landed on the format that you did, because it would have been really lonely for you to embark on this journey alone.
It's so sad. And like now I'm like reaching the end of it too, so it's a little harder to get guests, like new guests that want to watch Arizona Dream. Like, what is that? So
yeah. Know. Well, if you really run out of options, I offer myself for any of the crap you got left over. Oh, yeah. You can't find anyone.
You're on the speed dial. You and Angry are on the speed dial for any of the shits.
Because like like you said, like I'm down for anything, man. Like there was a point in my life where I was more pretentious about what I intook, but I will watch any movie because I feel like you can get something out of anything.
Oh yeah.
If you have the right attitude.
There's a lot to mine, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any movie that I watched that I thought afterwards, I wish I hadn't watched that.
Oh, well, kind of. So there's a movie that Will Smith was in called, oh my God, it was a few years ago. It has Kate Winslet, I think. And
wait, the one where he talks to death?
Yep.
Yeah, I know about that. I haven't watched it, but I read about it.
Oh, I hate it. What is the name of that movie? Oh my God. It's got like one of those really dumb names that they say over and over again,
Hmm.
but it doesn't make any sense. Don't come to me. We can move on with the game.
Yeah, yeah. That I read about that because that was one of the. It it's almost hard to make disaster movies nowadays in the studio system because they generally at least achieve mediocrity and usually no
Yeah.
more than that. Um, but every once in a
Collateral
while,
Beauty.
Collateral Beauty. Every
Mhm.
once in a while, a Collateral Beauty still comes out that you can marvel
Yeah.
at.
Or a Sherlock Gnomes.
Sherlock Gnomes. Quote number 5. He throws a lot of energy out. I don't know what all that energy is being used toward. This movie is not very kind to mental illness.
Uh, not very kind to mental illness. Penny and June.
Benny and June is the
Oh,
first incorrect answer.
damn it. Is it Gilbert Grape?
No, no, it's not. But both very interesting examples of movies that this quote could apply to, huh? We're talking Secret Window with Bryant
Secret Window.
Edwards.
Yeah. Also not very kind. Yeah.
Was Gilbert Grape unkind to mental illness? I've wondered that before.
I don't really know, honestly, because like Leonardo DiCaprio is doing a good performance, if that makes sense, but I haven't ever heard any sort of like commentary on what he's doing.
Right, right, right.
So
I got sound effects guy will gamble. Don't worry about it. It's a whole multimedia production over here.
yeah, it's good.
Next quote. He has candy and sales knowledge, as well as production knowledge in this cold, dusty, dank, sad, pale town. So, get a job!
I feel like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is too on the nose. He has candy knowledge, though. I'm just gonna go with it. I don't know, whatever.
Charlie and the
and the
Chocolate Factory! That is correct.
Good, great. I think I'm talking about Grandpa Joe. I'm
Yes,
assuming.
yeah, you were right. And that was you were absolutely talking about Grandpa Joe, who has candy and sales knowledge, yet just lays around in bed all day.
Great.
This is
Good job.
yeah, this is a common and very, I think, correct criticism of Grandpa Joe.
Yeah. And the original, he just gets up and starts tap dancing, and you're like, where was this years ago?
Uh-huh. Something something patriarchy, something something.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, quote number 7. Orson Welles was a garbage alcoholic idiot.
Um, okay, it's an episode where probably the Paul Masson commercial came up in some capacity. Or Orson Welles. Orson Welles was a garbage alcoholic idiot. I have questions about myself.
It's strong words.
Huh. Okay, I don't really know. So I'm gonna, because Marlon Brando, come with me on this journey.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So because Marlon Brando was in Don Juan DeMarco, Johnny Depp was also in Don Juan DeMarco. I'm gonna, and I think Marlon Brando worked with Orson Welles. I'm gonna go with Don Juan DeMarco.
This was a quote from the Ed Wood episode because
Oh,
Orson Welles shows up
yeah.
in that movie.
He sure does.
Well, as a character, not as the actor.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever seen Paul Masson commercials?
I have not.
Oh my God. They're so good. 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 Have you ever seen Paul Masson commercials?
I have not.
Oh my God. It's so good. He basically just like gets wasted on set because he's just drinking wine the whole time. But he's like
Oh,
looking at all.
those! No, I have seen
Yeah.
those. Oh, those are so
Oh,
good.
it's so good. It's like he doesn't do anything. Like Austin, cut.
Yes. Have you seen? Oh, what is this? Have you seen the show that? I can look this up real quick. The show that is has Will Ferrell as Orson Welles. Do you know about this?
uh, not drunk history, right?
No. So okay, the show is called Spoils of Babylon, and the idea is
I've heard of Spoils of Babylon.
yeah. So this is like this is a lost work of Orson Welles, and he's like presenting it to us. It's been uncovered, and so Will Ferrell plays Orson Welles in, but only in the bookends. The very beginning, the very beginning end of each episode. And he's like in a fat suit and he's got wine and he's just like the wine's going everywhere and he's basically doing those commercials.
Yeah.
And it's really really good. But then the episode proper flashes back to this like melodramatic soap opera parody of Orson Welles drama. It's really
I
fun.
think I might have seen a few episodes of this.
We have plans for sound effects on the stream, Tamakado. We have plans.
The future is bright with sound effects.
All right, where were we? Oh, another quote from that episode that I liked. Your kink doesn't need to be your downfall.
That's a fact.
All right, new quote. Oh my God, I can't. If you ever want to know my own personal hell, it would be Johnny Depp kissing while reading the dictionary. He is literally reading every word in the dictionary. Such classics include cushion. If you ever wanted to watch Johnny Depp literally read the dictionary, you know how people joke about I could listen to you read the phone book? No. No. No.
That is almost certainly from our episode of Transcendence.
That is correct. That is a quote from mine and Jenna's episode Transcendence. Really,
He literally reads the dictionary.
he does such a boring movie and then he's dying and it's so boring and he's just reading the dictionary so they can capture his voice for the computer.
Really bad. Rebecca Hall, fire your agent. Yeah, out of there.
My favorite part of that quote is such classics include cushion. All right.
That's pretty good.
Quote number 9. I believe Johnny Depp's eyeballs are CGI.
Oh. I believe his eyeballs are CGI. Alice in Wonderland?
That is correct. Alice in Wonderland with Rosalie Kicks, which I found to be such a delightful episode. That guest is very funny.
Oh yeah, she's so delightfully strange. She directed a short film that I was in last year called Pizza Man, which is coming, I guess, to festival circuits this year. But I play a pizza delivery driver who turns into a werewolf.
Very good. Pizza Man is a fantastic name for. You
Yeah,
know what it
really
reminds
good.
me of? It reminds me of Pepsi Man. You remember that?
Yeah, Pepsi Man. Pizza Man was fun. So I had like rehearsal the next morning at the Arden. But the night before, like we had this really late night shoot, and it's about an elderly couple who like are trying to enact revenge on a pizza company because the pizza delivery driver like killed their son way back when, and so they capture me and try to turn me into a pizza. So I'm like tied to a table getting sauce and cheese and oregano and stuff like that, like smeared all over my body, and then I turn into a werewolf and murder them. But yeah, I showed up at rehearsal the next day smelling like a pizza.
Food-based comedy it's really a do or die threshold,
Yeah.
as I learned in a production that I co-wrote, co-built, and co-acted in called Ranchland.
Hidden Valley?
Oh yes, yes. Ranchland is the story I made with a couple of friends. It was a clown-informed show about a ranch dressing themed amusement park. And for the production, we ordered 4 gallons of ranch dressing, because part of the show involved a creature named Gloopy, who was the physical embodiment of ranch dressing, and we kind of had to dunk Alexis, who you know from the improv scene. We had to dunk her in copious amounts of ranch dressing.
Oh, wow. Yep.
A definite highlight of my career, and one that my producer friend was not particularly happy with.
Yeah, food on stage, right? Always a question. Which is why they were like, "Yeah, we'll just line the walls for Pizza Man. We'll just line the walls with plastic. And then if it gets places, it gets places. But you only have to do it once." And I was like, "You're right. Because I'm not showering and coming back. We're doing this once."
Any show that brings glitter into a theater.
I mean, we experienced it like firsthand with Snow Queen.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still finding on my floor 2 years later.
Yeah, that's right. I assisted directed a piece at the Arden, a children's theater piece that Jenna performed in called Snow Queen. That is kind of where the Frozen myth comes from.
Yeah.
And it involved going through all the seasons, so the director insisted on having most of the set was really just this environmental stuff of like leaves falling and snow falling and figuring out how the heck we're going to clear that in time for the next season to happen. Those are fun problems to have, though, as a director. Maybe less so as a performer.
Yeah, I mean, we got to use like leaf blowers. That was cool.
Yeah, very cool.
It was fun.
And I believe we're at our final quote here. Now, I have to say that you were prompted before this quote for, if you were to make a candle, about this movie, what would its scent be? And your response was, shit. It would smell like shit. It would smell like nothing but shit. Actually, it would probably smell like aftershave.
Oh no! Shit and aftershave. Well, it's got to be a recent. It's got to be since December, because I've only been making candles since December. Shit and aftershave. That's so specific. Wow. Shit and aftershave.
Maybe if you keep saying it, it will jar the...
It'll come to me. Yeah. It's one of the stinkers I've seen. Let's go with the professor. Final answer.
Going out with an L. This film that you were looking for was Mordecai with Hate Watch, Great Watch.
Oh, yeah. Also correct.
Shit and aftershave. I haven't seen the movie, but I understand the aftershave part is probably referring to the rampant sexuality on display.
There's a lot of sexuality on display. I also believe that he does shave his face at one point. That does make sense.
Right, because it's a whole plot point about his mustache or something.
Yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow, like, gags every time she goes in to kiss him. I hate that movie.
Which, is something you have in common with Gwyneth Paltrow, I think, because a running theme of your podcast is how much you hate watching Johnny Depp smooch.
Oh, I hate watching him smooch. Yeah, it's a true nightmare for me. It just grosses me out. It's like he forgets how. Like, he doesn't know how.
Put my
like,
mouth
whatever,
over
who
here.
cares? You don't have to know how to kiss, but, like, don't lead with the tongue,
Well, lead with the tongue. You know what that means, Jenna? That means that you emerged victorious from this competition. You got 7 out of 10 of those quotes. So I will pay
That's
out
pretty good.
the yes
That's
people.
good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And that means you got $10 covered your way, and I don't get to play my dastardly YouTube video, which was going to be the Futter walking dance from Alice in Wonderland.
No. Nope.
we can spare you and chat from having to watch that again. Boy, what a turdly movie, Alice in Wonderland. Like a shockingly bad movie. And when it got to the Futter walking part, I was like, is this a joke? Am I being punked, Kutchered right now?
Right? Where's the cameras? Yeah. Oh, it's so bad. Dan and I, my partner, we saw the second one in theaters, and I don't think, like, again, he likes everything, and I don't think we've left a theater and him go like, that was garbage, or anything except that movie.
Really? Wow. You know it's a special one if you get somebody who's like very positive to dump on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw that movie with middle school friends of mine who were like the emo kids. I hung out with like the emo crowd. They were the only people who were nice to me. And so they were super looking forward to a Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland, as you can imagine, because Alice in Wonderland is a pillar of emo culture, as is Tim Burton.
Oh, yeah.
And we all walked out of it like shell-shocked. I remember we were so quiet in the car ride back. You're like, what?
What do you say? You know? At a certain point, you go, oh, okay.
Yeah, what is there left to say after being lambasted with something like that? I have good job on that, by the way. What was it like hearing your own quotes sent back to you through time?
Well, I'm always like extremely self-conscious that I'm just like not saying anything of merit. So I'm glad you could sift through the bullshit and find some gems.
I've wondered if you were self-conscious about that, Jenna, because you play that self-consciousness very close to the chest.
Yeah, I'm good at that. I don't know. My whole life I've second thought everything that I've ever said. So now that I'm in my 30s, I'm like, what's the point? I'm just gonna say stuff. I'm just gonna do it.
I think that's beautiful, and
yeah,
maybe speaks also to your transition in this project from theater to podcast, because with theater, you say some bullshit and it goes poof, and some people might remember it, and probably they won't bring it up again. But with a podcast, it is on the internet, and like, people like me can go back and sift through and like find stuff that you said a year ago, right? So has that been weird, or has it been a kind of a way for you to work through some of that self-consciousness?
I think it's definitely helped a lot. Just kind of like, and also doing Johnny Depp, the show, helped a lot too, because I was never, ever comfortable with improvising. And so we built a show where all I'm doing pretty much, like, I have a structure, but I make up most of where we're going based on who's in the room. So that like was a thing we did on purpose to make me more comfortable with improvising and also not thinking about what I'm saying. And when I used to do sketch comedy and stuff, I was like, I can't go off book. I can't do it.
Huh. Yeah, and that's another thing that I wouldn't have necessarily guessed about you, that you were insecure about improvising. But this goes to show, chat and audience, that even the people who seem cool and confident and collected, we contain multitudes of anxiety.
Oh yeah, I'm a mess. It's good though. It's fine. We'll get there.
Yeah, well, we're always getting there. We're always in the process of getting there, right? And like I remind chat sometimes, like I may seem like I have my shit together because I come here and like speak charismatically at you all the time, but I'm actually really awkward and shy and uncomfortable and anxious and like cripplingly anxious, and it took like a decade of hard work and a lot of really good mentorship to get to a point where I could be comfortable doing this. So it's all about the process, I think. Oh,
Is a thing.
you cut out there for a second.
Oh, am I back?
You are back.
Right. My partner is playing electric drums in the other room, so it's possible something's shaking in our house. But yeah, something with the podcast too that I'm like, I don't do that much editing on it. I just kind of let it fly. Yeah, having it on the internet for the world to see, but like they can't necessarily downvote it like you can on Reddit or on YouTube or thumbs down it, which I hate. I always have four people who thumbs down my videos, and I'm like, why are you thumbs downing my videos?
Four people is a specific number.
Very specific. I always thought it was like a burner account of somebody that didn't like me, but
Maybe.
and again, self-conscious thing.
Maybe it's Johnny.
Oh my God, it's Johnny's lawyers. They're coming out. Dear Johnny, dear Jenna, cease and desist.
Yeah, he gets 7 glasses of wine in, and he has to go troll your videos.
Yeah, exactly. He just Google searches himself, and I'm like the number 1,000. But yeah, it's been interesting. I guess I don't really talk about like the foreverness of, or like I don't really think about the foreverness of the internet necessarily.
Yeah, because you just can't, right? Like it's too overwhelming to think about that, and so I don't know. I find that I can't obsess over making sure I say the right thing all the time, or else I will go crazy and say nothing at all.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Thinking back on my whole life.
And this kind of wraps around to our earlier discussion about cancel culture, right? Because if we're all terrified of saying the wrong thing, then we won't have anything to say at all, and we will get trapped in our patterns rather than achieving any sort of growth. Johnny probably has 4 separate accounts to downvote your content. Yeah, maybe. It's method acting.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's got a Sweeney account. He's got Willy Wonka account. The Scissorhands, he just quietly sits in the corner.
The Scissorhand. The comments written from that account are basically incomprehensible.
Yeah, because it's
although I bet typing would be easier than writing. Anyway.
Oh yeah, because you wouldn't have to hold a pencil. You could just, it's got sharp little stickies. You can't put a hole through a computer necessarily.
I think, Jenna, that well, I hope that you are never prevented from doing any projects like this by that self-consciousness, because I think that you do a fantastic job on the podcast, and I think that you bring a very open and generous vibe, such that when other people say some bullshit, I guess there's always room for that, for either you or other people to say some bullshit and have it either be challenged or moved past or explored in a really interesting way.
Thanks, friend. Yeah, I try to give that space to people. I think a lot of that too comes from like the live shows, where if I enter into a theater space, like even if I'm being challenged by some sort of ideal I thought I had, like I still feel safe there in a way while still being challenged. Because I don't believe theater should be or like entertainment necessarily should be like a safe space. I think that if you can explore things safely while still being challenged in a way, I think that's good. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think that safe space is very dominant in the discourse right now. I've seen some people start to move past that phrase. I've heard a replacement phrase, brave space. I think that sounds too corny for me, but if there could be some better word, something better than safe space, because I think the artistic process, if it's really generative, can't be safe.
No.
And that's what's scary about it.
Yeah. And you just weed through it. We're all swimming together. Like, we don't know where we're going. We're salmon swimming upstream, you know?
And I bet you have had performances where there were just like a couple of bored assholes there who you're like, what movies have you seen him in? And they're like, Die Hard.
Yeah. Well, oh my God. I did this stupid show and we were playing the name game in it. And this isn't Johnny Depp, but like playing the name game. And of course, everybody says their name is Chuck. So that you go Chuck, Chuck, Bobuck, Banana Fana, Fo Fuck, or whatever. You're just like, oh, cute. You know, thank you for that energy. Moving on.
Any more Chucks in the house?
Yeah, exactly. Or, Dick or what. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Or your favorite movie? I don't like movies. Great. So it's Edward Scissorhands. Moving on. You know, like whatever.
Yeah. And there is a nice. I do know some people who have social anxiety who do still love performing because there is you enter into a different mode and there is a buffer between you and that disdain of the audience member. It still might hurt, but you can say like, okay, that was me as Johnny Depp, Jack Sparrow. I can kind of leave that on stage.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there was any like really, really bad situation. I did have one really bad situation very early on in the first run that we were doing where it was just like a crowd that was really drunk. And like because of that, they felt like because I was giving them space to respond, that yeah, you can say you love Goodwill Hunting and nobody will care, totally. Um, yeah, like it was not a good room and it wasn't very fun. And it was like on Valentine's Day and it was all these like drunk, sad people who were there without dates, which who cares? Like, whatever. Cool. Like, please come to our space and like share your Valentine's Day with us. That's great. I feel honored for that. But at the same time, I'm like, we were handing out pennies at that point, like instead of plastic gold coins. And they were literally like chucking pennies at my head because that was fun.
Yeah, that's where they were at that point.
Yeah. And I just like had to kind of like duck and bob and try to condense the show as much as possible because these people thought they were helping and like everything I said there would be a response. And like me as Depp, as Sparrow, as, whatever this persona I'm doing, I can shut them down and be like a dick fart about it. But like me as Jenna has to do that with gloves on, where it's like, yes, the character is shutting you down because my version of Jack Sparrow of Johnny Depp is like like a self-absorbed asshole who needs to speak over you. But like that's also a person who paid to be at the show, but is also throwing pennies at me, Jenna, while I'm just trying to like move through my day.
It's a pretty difficult thing to navigate, and that's something that the last episode of The Pit was on improv, and that's something that didn't really come up. We had Alexis and Nate and Joe on the show, and we didn't really talk about like very much about the worst case scenarios because it's a lot to navigate.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially doing a show too, where like at that point in our process, I wasn't very comfortable like making things up and I'd like stutter step over words and like didn't know where I guess the show began and I ended sort of, or like vice versa. So that was a little hard to navigate. But then after that, I was like, I can do anything. I can do anything. And like
Yeah, right. I got through that, and the cliche, I feel stronger for it.
yeah.
That's such.
But as John said, I'm still standing. Like, I
Mhm.
might be missing an eye because somebody threw a penny at it, but I'm here.
And I think with improvising, the key lesson at the core of everything, and I think this is true of acting in general, is listening. It sounds simple, but it's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to even the clowns who are trying to mess you up, you could maybe figure out like, what does this person need? How can I then dispel them? And I think that that's a really valuable skill to also have in your podcast, because every movie that you come to, probably because you have to talk about it for an hour and change, you do come to it with the attitude of, I will listen with an open heart for whatever this movie has to give me, because I need stuff to dig into. And I think for so many people, their engagement with art starts and ends at like, that was dumb, or like, that was cool. And if you're so quick to like categorize and swoof aside rather than really listen and engage with the thing, you're missing out on so many layers of meaning, I guess.
Yeah, I totally agree because like I just think, I don't know. I'm also a person that like notices a lot of stuff. Like I notice a lot of things and I always have, and either I choose to comment on it or not. But like because of that I tend to meet art where it is, but I also am sort of, I don't know, able to like judge it critically, but also step away from it if I have to, which I don't think is a skill that like a lot of people have, and particularly people engaging in something that you watch, so like theater or film. Um, Whereas music, it's a little bit easier for people to be like, I liked that song, or like I didn't like that song, or that song made me emotional, and that song I'd press skip on the CD or whatever. But I think watching something, because it's like all your senses are involved in a way, um, it's a little harder for some people to like dig in critically in that way. It does
Yeah, go ahead.
podcast too because it is a listening medium, and like I prefer to do it without video because I just like to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like ooh, train of thought. Where have you gone? um, wait, what was the last thing we were just talking about?
Listening?
Listening? Wow, did I just fall? Did I just shoot myself in the foot there? Yeah, we were talking about listening. What were you were saying again?
Yeah, what were you saying? I actually didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry. I heard you, but
Ned says listening is an important skill. People say things for a reason, even if they are assholes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that
That's
we're
true.
pressured or encouraged to see everything in a polemic, yes or no, good or bad. That applies to people and that applies to the art that we consume. And again, it's that thing that shuts down all further engagement, being able to just sum up in one word and then swipe left or right, you know?
Yeah, I have a very tough time with that. Um, Clearly, because I've dedicated the better part of 3 years to Johnny Depp. More than 3 years.
Yeah.
Man.
Which probably feels sometimes like, why did I do that? But I love so many of the conversations that have come out of it, and I feel like I've learned a lot, both on a micro level of like a lot of details come up about the production or about people's takeaways that you're like, I hadn't thought about that before, but also in the macro scale of my relationship with this figure is changing all the time.
Yeah, it shifts at all times.
I have a sort of a wrap up question on that note. So there's this thing with, I think a good illustration of this phenomenon happens with music, where if there's a sort of performativity when you're asking someone about their favorite bands, where if they say like what's a band? Like what is an example of a band?
The White Stripes.
The White Stripes, perfect. Oh yes, perfect. For some reason, feels very relevant to Johnny Depp. Jack White is a similar figure, maybe.
Very similar, yeah. At least in Vision.
So, White Stripes is your favorite band, and the other person says, "Oh, well, then what's your favorite song from that band?" And you're not allowed to say Seven Nation Army, because then you would be a poser, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you pick their most popular song, everyone's like giving you side eye, like, oh, you're that kind of fan.
Sure.
So there's this phenomenon where your investment in a band or work of art, an artist in general, almost can't be seen as aligned with their most prominent work until you become like a mega expert in that band or artist. Then maybe you can circle all the way back around and say, you know what? I've been listening to Led Zeppelin for 30 years, and I actually do think Stairway to Heaven is their best song, you know?
Right.
So it's almost like you have to go through the fires of expertise before you're allowed to have the normie opinion again. So my question for you is, given that your podcast and even your theater show starts with this nugget of your deep childhood love of Jack Sparrow, and like that was the favorite Johnny Depp performance that kicked everything off, and then you've decided to watch every single Johnny Depp movie and become an expert in his career. So now on the other side of that, what do you think is the best Johnny Depp performance?
So the best one.
Yeah, or your favorite. I'm not exactly sure which, but
Yeah, I have like a few categories that I've like been able to like file things under kind of. Where I think that like my favorite Johnny Depp movie is probably Crybaby.
okay.
That's my favorite movie. It's not my favorite performance of his. And then like my favorite performance is probably, I mean, trying to like think of like, because he's really fucking good in Blow, and I forgot until I rewatched that movie again.
Uh-huh.
But my favorite like performance of his, because it is so iconic and it shifted and colored every single one of his performances after that movie, has to be the first Pirates movie.
Okay, all right. So
Yeah.
you did start with this affection, and you've gone through this entire process, and you still are like, yeah, that's my jam.
Yeah, and then second probably is Edward Scissorhands, because he's like such a good listener. Um, Again, back to listening, right? He's such a good listener, which is why some of the movies where he talks a lot are really bad.
I would be hard pressed not to also pick Jack Sparrow. It's really wild. Net in Japan says Gilbert Grape and made him a real actor. I could see that.
Yeah, he'd been doing some good stuff before that though. Like Private Resort. No, I'm just kidding. Private Resort is garbage. But but Edward Scissorhands was before Gilbert Grape. Benny and June is a stupid movie, but he's quite good in it.
It's been a while since I
There's
saw
a
that one.
shift. Oh God, don't. Did I say that out loud? But Gilbert Grape did kick off like Ed Wood and Dead Man, which he's quite good in. Donnie Brasco, which is a delightful movie in many ways and very silly in others. Fear and Loathing, Sleepy Hollow, which is great. So some of these things I've been like, oh yeah, there are some gems that I completely forgot about that I'd watched once when I was in high school because I was going through the same project very slowly. And there's some fun. Once Upon a Time in Mexico is really fun. Yeah, it's been a treat in many ways, and it's been a chore in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else in chat have a favorite Johnny Depp performance? I would probably still go Jack Sparrow, but my favorite movie that he's in, it's been a while since I saw it, but I think Ed Wood is very close to my heart, and
So good.
I'm always thinking about Ed Wood and bringing up Ed Wood when it comes to this question of like, what if so you were always told growing up you have to find the thing that you want to be and that you care about the most, and make it happen. But what if you're terrible at that thing?
Yeah, and just do it anyway. God, I fucking love Ed Wood. Ed Wood, I think, is my favorite Tim Burton movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's very heartfelt.
it's so beautiful and it's so beautifully done, and everybody in it is just like really great. And the style and like Depp is fucking awesome in it. Again, like your kink shouldn't be your shame or like your downfall, like, and that movie even explores the fact that like you can be weird and still succeed in many ways. But yeah, like if the thing that you were born to do you're not good at, but you still do it anyway with all your heart, like there's something gorgeous about that.
Yeah, and I think it's a movie that if it came out now might be problematic, because Depp is like gender queering and cross dressing and that sort of thing, and Depp the person doesn't seem to do that, but it's clearly I think it's a great example of someone coming to that role with such passion and care and love that it doesn't feel exploitative at all. It feels
Yeah,
like an expression of affection.
like super genuine. Yeah, and just like a celebration of what made this person who they were. Um, in many ways. And Tim Burton's good at that too when he's not just like throwing a bunch of money to piss away. Um,
Yeah, where did he go, man?
HBCTB, the Helena Bonham Burton years, they broke up and then he just floated away.
ISO says, should we start a 7 degree to Johnny Depp? Did he play with everybody in Hollywood? I mean, as Jenna says, he's had 91 movies, so yeah, I don't think he's played with everyone, but you could definitely 7 degree him from anyone.
Oh yeah, especially since like he's worked with Pacino and Brando. So you 2 degree him in lots of ways.
Right. Cool. I'm going to start to wrap up this episode of The Pit, which has been absolutely delightful. Really, really enjoyed it. We've now swapped podcasts, Jenna. I'm very pleased about it.
Yes.
For those who might be listening and not watching, I'm going to shout out Jenna's information here. Their Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd account is at less than a muffin. And they sell candles on the Instagram handle at dumpster fires for you. If you want to send Jenna any Venmo or Cash App for their time here today, which I highly encourage you to do, that is also at dumpster fires for you. She'll be getting at least $10 for excelling in the little competition I had for her today. Depp Impact is the podcast that we've been talking about. It's available on all podcast platforms. If you want to watch Blobby's episode, it's Transcendence. And you can find all of these things and more at jennakuerzi.com. That's Jenna. Kuerzi?
Yeah.
Jenna. Oh, God, I was going to say Q. Don't type Q. JennaKuerzi.com. .com.
.com, yeah. You've never heard of Tori Amos?
No, no.
You're canceled.
All right. Then you can end the episode yourself.
I don't know how.
I don't know how either. All right. Thanks. Thanks so much for joining me and canceling me, Jenna.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Anytime.
And thank you to chat for joining us. You'll be able to find this episode on YouTube pretty soon. Any parting words for folks, Jenna?
Just thank you so much for being here and thank you for having me. Yeah, I guess that's kind of it. If you ever need any candles, you know where to find me. And if you ever need any if you ever had any questions about Johnny Depp, You also know where to find me.
Yeah, right. Have everyone everyone like found these weird, cool hustles during quarantine, and I love the candle making. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, it's been. I have to make like 50 of them because I'm vending the punk rock flea market this weekend. So that's my job today.
Oh man, my hustle was Patreon for my movie writing, which is fitting for this conversation.
Oh
And
yeah.
I've been so behind on those commissions. My God.
Yeah, it's hard when like you have to actually create something.
Yeah, with any sort of regularity, because we artists are flighty.
Yeah, and get busy very quickly.
All right. Well, goodbye to all of you. Thank you to you, Jenna, and see you next time. I believe our next episode of The Pit will be in a few weeks on non-traditional family structures, so tune in for that.
Amazing.
Cheers.